Hello everyone. So we were talking on Facebook and Facebook groups about this groovy little portable painter that I just received. And I've been playing with watercolors for the last couple of years and having such a ball doing it. But I've noticed that I tend to have a thing with palettes, and I've had a really hard time literally finding the right palettes to use. Perhaps it's just me, but like big old messy palettes like this are great. However, they always fall off my table or I never have enough space for them. And I find that like there are some projects that I don't mind having a great big palette for, but then these regular like sketchbook projects, I don't really want a big old messy palette. And sometimes you just want to paint, you just want to sit down and like just paint for like 10 minutes or take your paints with you. So I've been really attracted to some of these really small little palettes, and trying to find the right one has been a big issue. Now I've looked at lots of crazy like custom palettes that are really expensive. I've looked at, considered like the Schminke tins, because I'm a big Schminke fan and I do really like the tins, and the tins are pretty cool. I mean, you can put your own wells in there, you can design them any way you want. They have a decent amount of mixing space, really, but they lack some things. Like this one, in order for me to have a brush or have water, I have to bring it all separately. The thing is it does have a little pin, but I don't find myself balancing it on one hand very much. So this probably would have its usage, but for the most part, it really hasn't been my go-to palette. I don't find myself reaching for it, and I'm not really that excited about it. I've also done, like the Windsor Newton palette. This is a decent palette because it's got really big mixing wells, but again, it takes up a lot of table space. And although it's nice, I do tend to like putting in my own colors. This does have a really good range, but again, the colors aren't really as bright as what I like to paint with. So this didn't really work out, and replacing it wasn't really worth it. Like getting my own and putting them in here, it would hold a lot, and it is a cool palette, but it's still not great to travel with, and it does kind of rattle a lot. And also the pieces come out, you can hear them rattling around, and this is just kind of too heavy and big. So what does that leave me with? Well, a lot of things, like maybe you've seen these little ones. These are pretty good. They are not airtight. The paint does still dry inside of them. They're decent though. They have like these extra little pieces here that you can put. They have lots of mixing area. You can like stick a travel brush in there, or like some extra little things that you need, and put them in. So they're decent, but I didn't like the fact that these mixing wells were angled and the paint tend to slide out. I didn't really love it, and I thought that they can definitely improve. Now I could have taken additional wells and put them here. I could have put pans in there and just kind of stuck them in. That would have been fine because this has plenty of mixing area, so that is an option. So probably this was the most travelable, but then again, there's no water and it kind of, lacks luster, right? So then I start looking into some of these nifty little travel ones that were built for travel. Now here's the one that I recently got. It's by Windsor Newton, and it's very lightweight. It's very small. You can see it's like just my hand, so I can really put this anywhere and I can travel with it. It has some flexibility. It has one water container. So that was the one issue, because I need 2 water containers, which the portable painter has 2 water containers, and it's about the same size, a little bit bigger, but it's still light. The other issue with this was that the mixing areas are terrible. I mean, I would have rather had one mixing area that was deep or like this than these mixing areas that don't hold anything. I was spilling this all over myself, and maybe it's because I like a little more of a wash mixing area. So what I ultimately had to do with this one is I had to put pans in here that were large enough for me to mix, or use the base. But the problem is I would use the base and then have to wipe it out, and I couldn't really see what I was doing. So clear or white little pans really worked out pretty good, but it really got messy, and ultimately it was good. It did well, and it has this little hook here on the back so that I can hold it in one hand. But again, I'm not really crazy about the function of it because one, it just has one of these. It does slide on, I think, somewhere. Does it? Yeah, it does. It does slide on and hold it. These slide around a lot, which you can do a fast fix. I was able to put extra pans in this side part, which is kind of handy, or you could put like one big like mixing area, which would be handy. So this is like probably one of my options that I use, but I just don't love that there's not a mixing area. So what I do is I keep this one in my living room, believe it or not, and that way I have like an extra water cup for it. And on top of that, I have like a ceramic dish just sitting there that I can just use to mix the colors together. And that's been my option here. This one did come with a brush, but the brush was completely useless to me. I don't really like it, so I don't use it. I think it was in there, and I've already lost it. It's a tiny little brush that just does nothing. So this is good, but not great. So then I found this one, and this is called the Portable Painter. The Portable Painter Classic. Now apparently this came out on some kind of a crowdfund type of thing, and it did really well, but the original ones, and you'll see them on the reviews, these pans came out really easily, and if you flipped it over, they basically fell out. So if you drop this thing, your pans would fall out. But since then, they added these little dots. So underneath, they're already there. The dots are holding everything in place, and they're good. They don't come out. If I want to take them out, I can still take them out and put other things in there if I just use a palette knife. It's pretty simple to get them out. But there's just enough stickiness on there to keep them in, and they don't rattle. So that was one thing that I was wondering about, but they fixed it since I got mine. Another thing that I thought was really cool was the mixing area. The mixing area on this, it just is awesome because I've already done like all this swatching and painting, and literally you can put this on your knee. It's stable if you put it on your countertop. These are not loaded this way, they're slid in, which means that like if you set it down, it's not going to pop off, right? There's some other features. The brush is decent actually. It's a pretty nice size brush, and it's a double brush, which I'll show you in a second. That's my own brush. The big thing obviously being there's enough access to all the paint. I don't feel like I'm kind of digging in with this one. I feel like I have access to the paint and I can really mix stuff. And I don't feel like there's 10 spaces here, there's 3 really big wells here. This has been plenty for me. I didn't really need an additional well to do like sketchbook size paintings, right? And that really made a difference. So using it, this really had the best use for me. It was easiest. You could also, what I liked about this, see, I can just set it down, it doesn't slide, it's good. You can also balance it on your knee, and that would be really helpful if I wanted to take it somewhere. Now let's take it apart so you can see how small it actually is, because it's light and small, compact. It's like the size of my palm. It really has everything, and I'm so pleasantly surprised at how much I really, really like it. So if I, let me see, I don't think these are wet anymore, no. So if I shut it, just like that, I can slide these out, which is great because they just slide out, and these are the pieces that hold the container. You see how easy it is? They don't stick, they're tight enough where they don't rattle. I think it goes like this next, and here. And then this slides over, and there's a rubber band. I believe this rubber band is for you to hold extra paintbrushes. Now, if you had a travel brush or a water brush, you could literally just keep this on here, and you could either put your samples, or you could put an extra brush, preferably something that protects the tip. So maybe you're going to use like a water brush. There's a lot of different water brushes. Like here's one I got with another set that I could just put on there, and I could just take this. Now compared to this one, they're the same size pretty much. And are they the same weight? Yeah, they're the same weight. But this one, I just feel, for me, it feels more solid, and I can really function with it because of the 2 places for water. And like I said, the access, for some reason, let's look at the access to the paint. Like when I open it, it is well made, but I feel like it's hard for me to get to my paints, and I have no idea why. I couldn't tell you why I feel that way. This one, it feels really like easy to use. I'm gonna put this just right there. These come off really simply. They slide on really easily, and then it becomes that nice base that I like so much, right? I also have pains in my hands sometimes, so it's nice when something is really stable and I don't feel like I'm gonna drop it. And this is just really stable. It doesn't have a hook on the bottom, but you know what? With these in place, they're not going anywhere. It's really nice. Let's look at this brush too. And also, I feel like the way this is, I mean, you can see how this is tilting. And if you look, the paint will just run. It just runs right off. And also, I felt like I kept knocking it over and the paint would slide off and get all over me. So like I have paint everywhere I'm sitting because it just doesn't work. So these really don't even need to be there. I could basically take these off and probably even feel more stable with it without these pieces there. I would rather just not have them and just have just this and this, right? For this, they are automatically angled down and there's plenty of room here, so I could just keep adding water and I really have enough area to mix. And then I have these additional wells that are very well made. You can see how deep they are to mix the paint in. That made a huge difference when it came to using this and actually using it, even at a desk or in bed or, you know, on a chair outside. So come spring and summer, this is definitely what I'm going to be using, and I'm really, really thrilled with it. I noticed that there's also another little one right here. I don't know, it has pretty big mixing wells. I still would choose this over this. I can't imagine why anybody would buy this when you have this and you can have the two water areas. To me, this is just going to be exactly like this. You know what I mean? I love the portable painter. I think this is really cool. And it is marketed as a hands-free painter. And like, you know, that you just put it right next to you when you're having your coffee or put it on your knee. The knee thing is pretty cool actually, because I sit on, you know, my deck chairs and stuff out in spring and summer like all day. And I work on the computer, and it would be so nice just to be able to just turn everything off, not have to go get a palette and paper and the brushes and the whole thing and the water. If I just had it all there, then basically, you know, it would be so easy to paint on the fly. Or if I was like visiting a park with my dogs and I saw something that I really wanted to paint, this is definitely something I would take with me. It's really nice. So this is the brush that came with it. I also really like this. I thought this was a really decent brush. It doesn't really have to have, you know, the things always get messed up, but it doesn't really have to have much going on to be a usable brush. This looks like maybe a size 2, perhaps. I think so. It's like a decent size. I mean, this is basically the size of some of my really nice like little detail brushes. So this one is a size 2. Yeah, it's a size 2. And this one, I would say, I mean, this is my go-to brush these days. It's a size 8, so perhaps this is about a size 4, which is a decent size too. They're synthetic, and they work. They hold a lot of water, surprisingly, you know? So if you wanted to use it, I mean, look how much water it can generate. It does a pretty good job. Not bad. Oh yeah, lots of color. So definitely a decent travel brush too, which is nice because unfortunately this one comes with one that's so small and literally holds no water. This is neat though, I like this. And then you can put this back in here and there you go. So this is cool, right? So I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's great. As far as my colors, you guys wanted to know what colors that I put it in, because I guess a lot of the artwork that you see is very colorful. And yeah, I do have very colorful little paintings and sketches as I'm kind of working out my style and everything in my sketchbooks here. This is a sketchbook by Paul Rubens. I really like these. I take them everywhere with me, and you know, just when I get inspired to paint something, bam. So all of these can be made with just this selection of 12. I'm going to run through the colors with you guys so that you can, you know, have plenty of colors to mix. This is a reduced version of my larger palette, and like I said, it manufactures everything. So like there's no purple in here because I have the colors in here that will make this lovely purple here, this lovely purple here, this one, you know, so like I've made sure that the colors I am having in my palette will not only make granulated selections, but it will make every color in the rainbow. I also have colors in here that will manufacture this beautiful bright orange, or a little more muted orange, or a red orange. So cool oranges and warm oranges. I have colors that will manufacture the greens, so I don't need a sap green, I don't need an olive green, I don't need really anything. The only thing I did include in here out of convenience, just because I like it, is the Viridian green. And that's not that I couldn't have made one, I really could have with the colors I have, but I had an extra well, and it was either that or Quin gold, and I was like, you know, I usually put Quin gold in, but this time I put this color in by Daniel Smith, and it is Nicle Azo, which is really, really cool. And honestly, when it starts to mix down, you can either use it as a bright yellow or a Quin gold, really. And if I really want to use Quin gold, I'd probably just include it like in here. I could easily put in a little pan and just put some stickum stuff in there and like pop it right in there so easily. Or I can just fill this up. I mean, I noticed that it would be nothing to put some extra paint colors in these wells here, because I still have this mixing area and I have this mixing area, so I'm definitely not limited. Oh yeah, another cool thing is that the water wells have ridges for your paintbrushes, so if you are using different paintbrushes and you need to set them down, you got options, yeah, without messing things up. So it's not actually it doesn't have to sit in there, it can sit right there. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, so they really thought of everything. I have to say, I could not have done better on this myself at all. It's pretty cool. So let's go over the paint colors. Okay, I'm going to tell you one by one what's in here. I have my little chart right here that I did. And I actually cut this so that it fits and can stay right in my little container with me. How fun is that? Here's a little snapshot of it, if you guys want to see. And here's a little snapshot of all of the colors that those few make, and many more shades than this, many more shades. But if you notice, they don't get muddy, and that's what I kind of look for. I look for nice combinations that if I mix them together, they might make a nice gray, like a purpley gray or a blue gray or something, but they don't get muddy. And that, I know, that's definitely something that's handy when you're doing watercolors for sure. Okay, let me see. Yeah, we did some really pretty things with these. They definitely were helpful. Okay, so let's go. Here we go, guys. Ready? I'll turn this way so you can see. And the first one is by Daniel Smith, and it's called Hansa. Hansa is a wonderful yellow. It's somewhere in between a lemon and like a warm yellow. And when you mix Hansa with like an opera pink or even a bright red, right, you get these beautiful shades of orange for sunrises, for florals. I mean, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous way to get these nice oranges. If you want to mix it also with like blues, you get like really, really vivid greens. So it's really a beautiful, beautiful color. The other yellow here is by Schminke, and it's Cad Yellow 224. Now the Cad Yellow has a lot more, even more brightness, and what it does is it mixes well with my Bright Red by Sennelier, and it makes this really, really warm orange. Also, if I use the Sminka Cad Yellow and mix it with the Nicle Azo, I get that sap green with a little bit of texture and granulation if I want. And it's really, really lovely, you know, really lovely. You can just add a little bit of Phthalo turquoise to it, which is in my palette. So this Phthalo turquoise, or I could add Viridian, and it would get us to the sap, you know? So like I can go either way. In other words, I can do Nicle Azo this way. I can do Cad Yellow, still get these greens. I can even do the Hansa and still get the beautiful greens. Is that, I hope I explained that right. Here's an example of what the Cad does with the French Ultra to get another green. Just beautiful. They're vivid. They're just gorgeous greens, you know. The one in the center is the Daniel Smith Nicle Azo. I love this. It's so, so beautiful. If you've ever looked at a bigger shot of it, this is what it looks like. It's right here. It's so, so pretty. This is the Hansa, so it's got a very, very bright quality to it, where the Cad Yellow has more warmth. The Nicle Azo is just a lovely, lovely color. It's very close, you know, like it has some of the properties of the Quin Gold. Like I said, the Quin Gold is really the only one that I'm kind of missing in here. And at this point, I really think I'm just going to stick it in one of these wells because, you know, just so that I have access to it. Another one, if I want to go crazy, is Aussie Red Gold. It's hard not to have this one too. but for the sake of argument, if you look, I can manufacture an orange that's just as beautiful as the Aussie Red Gold just from mixing the Hansa Yellow by Daniel Smith and the Opera Pink. And it really does make a beautiful, beautiful color. The Quin Gold, I can kind of get close to it if I do the Bright Red and the Hansa Yellow. I can get in this range of Quin Gold. I just have to kind of mix it a little bit. You can also arrive at it with the Nicle Azo and a little bit of Pink Opera. You can get there. You can also get there with a little bit of Nicle Azo and the Bright Red. You can still get there. It's just a little shade, you know, shade variation different, but just try it and play with your colors because you'd be surprised what you can get close to, really close to. And, you know, if you have a limited space and you have to make choices, well, that's there. So the next one is Pink Opera. I always have this in a palette strictly because I do a lot of florals and it really does brighten everything. Like, let me show you something I used for it to brighten up. Here we go. So here I actually brightened my Quin rose with a little bit of Pink Opera, and here I brightened this up with some Pink Opera. Here I used a little Pink Opera with my Quin rose to get like a little bit more brightness. This also has Pink Opera in it so that it brightens up the reds. What else has pink? This one definitely Pink Opera, Quin Rose, and a little bit of Bright Red. It's really, really pretty. And then I used French Ultramarine to generate the purple. Really nice, right? So you can see where that just comes in handy. Quin Rose is definitely my go-to choice these days. There have been so many other pinks and kind of red colors, blue reds that I've used, but I really like Quin Rose. It's by Daniel Smith, and there's a lot of companies that are making Quin Rose, so you can use Mission Gold, whatever you have. I just happened to lock into the one by Daniel Smith. I think it came in a kit, and I just kept ordering it. The Quin Rose, it goes very, very, very well. It's a really beautiful dark. It mixes with lemons and really manufactures some nice oranges. It makes some beautiful purples if mixed with turquoise. On this, you can see how I even got like a more opaque-y looking, beautiful purple by mixing it with the Sennelier Turquoise. And it can even go down to these beautiful pinks and the kind of like mauve colors, plum colors. It's really pretty when mixed with the Cerulean, which we're going to talk about very, very shortly. Over here I mixed Quin Rose with Opera Pink, and going towards the French Ultra, you can see how you get this beautiful range. I mean, this is like stunning, right? So for florals, for pretty much anything, this definitely played a huge part in this piece here. You can see the Quin Rose mixed with the French Ultra and a little bit of my Hansa yellow, a little bit of my Azo, and I got all of these beautiful purples from it. And that's just, it's such a pretty thing, and I just washed it and just played with the color. Let's see what else here. Oh, the bright red. So Sennelier makes a bright red 619. I've been using it forever. I use it instead of the Pyro Scarlet because the Pyro Scarlet tends to get a little dirty when mixing with some of my other colors. Even though I love it, if I just had oranges and it was going to be by itself, I would definitely put accents in after the paint was dry with this, but I don't like using this in watery mixes. It just doesn't work for me. It tends to go muddy. Alizarin Crimson does the same thing. It doesn't really give me the effects that I want. It doesn't give me the brightness. It kind of makes things a little more dusty. And the Quin Magenta is a good one too, but again, I can get Quin Magenta because if you just put Opera Rose with the French Ultra, you will eventually get to this beautiful purple. Or if you mix the Cerulean with the Quin Rose, you will get to a beautiful, you know, magenta purple. And without toxicity, I would think too, because I think Quin Magenta is toxic, so just be careful with that. So in any case, the bright red is my choice of reds, and that's what makes these beautiful orange ranges. It's a nice kind of like somewhere in between. It has warmth to it, but it also has cool effects to it. So I pretty much can't go wrong with it. I haven't really had any issues using it. It's one of those beautiful, beautiful reds that just always shows up for me and does really well. I'm trying to think if I've used it in any of these custom color mixes yet. I don't think so. I should though. I should do like a custom color mix with the red and see what it turns out like. In any case, I don't want to waste your time. So the next one is Viridian. Now this Viridian is actually by Mission Gold, but you can get a Viridian from anywhere. Really, Viridian is a common color. Phthalo Green 807 is also like a Viridian, and that's what was in my other palette. That's this one. This is a beautiful color. It's just the same. There's a lot of greens that are just so close to a Viridian. So check your palette and see if there's anything that you have that you really like, because there are a lot of greens. Things that I use like Viridian for, maybe I would add it to this, but this pretty much was just done with the Phthalo Turquoise, the Cerulean, this turquoise here, and some yellow. I got all of this just from that. But I would actually go back in and I did some very, very light bits of Viridian in here just to kind of like make it pop out just a little bit more. But Viridian's like my convenience color, and I mainly added it to this palette, and I'm still like thinking maybe it should have been Quin Gold, but I don't know. I think that this is beautiful. It made this really pretty teal when I mixed it with Cerulean, and that's the purpose of really putting it there. I also do a lot of florals, and I feel like this is a nice shade to just have conveniently tucked away in your palette that you don't have to really mix to make. Because if I'm making sap green, if I'm making olives, if I'm making all of these and I'm kind of like mixing them on paper, it would be nice just to reach in and be able to add a little bit, get to this turquoise very quickly and easily, because it's a very deep, rich shade. So that's the purpose of it being there. The Turquoise by Sennelier is $8.43. The turquoises, I mean, like everybody makes them at this point, right? I have found them in so many sets. I'm trying to think of other turquoises. Like there's a Daniel Smith turquoise. There's a Schminke turquoise. I have them all. This is the Cobalt Turquoise 509. It's very close to this turquoise. This is the Sennelier Turquoise 843. I mean, honestly, they're all good. Really, they're just, I think maybe slightly different when you look at the shades, and some of them are a little more opaque than others. If I were going to kind of take you on a tour, this is the Schminke one. It's really bright. It's got a lot of granulation. It's a beautiful color. Cobalt Turquoise though is toxic, so be careful. Don't let your dogs or your kids play with it. Turquoise Green 843 is the one I have here. This is by Sennelier. And I like this, it's really pretty. Mission Gold makes one. The Mission Gold one is also very pretty, but less granulated. I mix a lot of the turquoise with the Lunar Blue, and I get these really nice custom effects by just adding the turquoise to different things. It's really, really pretty. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the turquoises I have, but I use a lot of it. Just be careful because it is toxic. The next one is Helio Cerulean, and this one is by Schmincke 479. It's one of my favorite blues. I use Cerulean by so many different companies. I mean, seriously, I've used Mission Gold is a beautiful Cerulean, number 541. The other Cerulean that I've used is like this Helio Cerulean, which is the one in my palette 479, and it's stunning. I love it. But if you look, they're very, very similar, you know. So whichever you have in Cerulean, just check it out, you know, and play with it and see if it fits your palette. I use it for everything. It's not granulating, so if I mix it with a granulating color, I can get some granulating effects, but for most part it's just bright and smooth and a great way to get that really beautiful sky blue, and that's what I get. I can mix it with the yellow, the Cad Yellow, and it makes this beautiful green, like a tealy green. I can mix it with this is the Cerulean mixed with a little Nicle Azo, and I get a nice range of earthy kind of greens and tones from olive, you know, on through. You can even get more towards the brown side just from the Nicle Azo. And then the Cerulean mixed with the Viridian, it makes that beautiful, beautiful teal, and I love that color. You can also put it with the Lunar Blue, and you get a lot of texture. You can really play with that. And actually, that is something I did here on this piece. This is a salt piece I was just playing with. So I basically took Lunar Blue, and I just put it on a really heavy wash. I took Phthalo Turquoise, and I added it, pulled it down through. I added salt. I took a little bit of the Cobalt Turquoise by Sennelier 843, and I kind of went through and added it just a little bit, and then I just let the salt dry, and it's got like a ton of texture. I'm not crazy about it. I still need to go back and fiddle with it, but you know, for a salt piece, it's kind of fun to play with and just to see what they do. They definitely mix nice together, and it's a very, very pretty effect. It would be less dusty if it didn't have the Lunar Blue though. So the next one is Cinelle French Ultra 315. It is a pretty, pretty color, and it's granulating. So pretty much whatever I put it with, it's going to cause some granulation, especially if I add a lot of water. There's a lot of French Ultras that I have used, from Sennelier to Schmincke to Daniel Smith. Windsor Newton has one, Mission Gold has one. The only Ultra that I feel wasn't the best and strongest, I didn't really love the Mission Gold, you know, Mejello. Although if you use it really like right out of the tube, you're good. You know what I mean? But these ones, probably Schmincke, Sennelier, and Daniel Smith, are my favorite French Ultras. The one I chose for this palette is the Sennelier, and that is how I'm making the greens, the purples. I mean, it's just, it pretty much, you can mix it with anything in this palette and it will make something great. So don't be afraid of that one. That's a great one to have as a basic. The last two in the palette are Sennelier's Phthalo Turquoise 341. That is really a convenience color for me, but it makes these beautiful, beautiful things. You know, just, I've used it so many times in so many projects because it's just a gorgeous green. It's bright, and it makes just such a lovely like background color if you wash it out, because it's got like this beautiful clear color. So I tend to use it in a lot of these little sketches, just, you know, as an accent color along with the French Ultra, and it plays really well with it. I love it. It's just one of my favorite colors to use. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to show you. No, I think that's it. So the last one is Lunar Blue, and Lunar Blue is a Daniel Smith granulating color. It's got Lunar Blue has some turquoise in it, and it is kind of like a dusty color. Now I'll show you this project, like I said, was made with the Lunar Blue. So it does get really granulated and it does reduce down to like a dusty kind of look. But in higher concentration, this is also Lunar Blue. You can see it's got the dark ridge. If you add water, some of the blues pop out that look very much like the turquoise. And I believe they did mix turquoise in here to get this. I'm not really sure of the color combination. I don't have the paint tube. You can look it up though. But if you add water, it will granulate and these beautiful blues will pop out. Now, I added it here, not really for much else other than just to be maybe a glaze or to play with it a little bit. I don't know how long I will have it in this palette. Again, it's not necessary. It's just a convenience, kind of fun, something granulating just to have fun with. I noticed that here's what I can do with it. So that one paint color mixed with everything in this palette can make a really, really large range of very interesting granulation. If you look through, I can get this just by playing with it. We can mix it with opera pink. We can mix it with greens. Once I get a color, if I want to just continue to mix it, like with my bright red, I get like this really interesting neutral. If I mix it with the French Ultra, you get this really interesting look. If I mix it with the Hansa Yellow and the Cerulean, then I get this gorgeous thing, you know, I mean, like, and I can glaze it over with the Luna, or I can take the French Ultra itself is granulating, so I can mix the French Ultra with a little bit of the turquoise, which are both granulating, mix them with Hansa Yellow or Quin Gold, and I get something to this effect. So you can see there's like many, many options when you have this one thing in your palette. Let me show you one more. Here you go. Yes, I know. Can you believe it? So you can get all this from Lunar Blue and this palette that I have right here. The only one that, yeah, you can get Red Violet too, and you can get the Imperial Purple one, because remember, we just have to mix two colors to get the purple, and then mix that with the Lunar Blue, and you've got this. Whether or not you mix it all together and paint it, it's up to you. You'll get different effects. I typically put the Lunar Blue down and then I'll paint the other color over it, and then I kind of mix it up with some water and wash it around on paper and see what I can do with it. Or you can do it the other way, where you put the color down first and then you start adding the Lunar Blue and more water. Either way, you're going to get some really beautiful effects if you like granulating colors, but you don't want to put out a ton of money to get your own range of granulating colors. As you can see, I have done this all just by having this one Lunar Blue and mixing it with all of these colors to create these. It's pretty interesting, right? So how would you have ever guessed that this tiny little palette with 12 colors could get all of these colors and be able to do all these projects with something that I can just fit in the palm of my hand and take anywhere with me? Talk about no limitations. So that was my reasoning for trying to find the best travel palette ever. Just something that doesn't limit me and that takes me anywhere I want to go, any time of year. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much. Be sure to leave me a comment. I would love to know if there's any other palettes that I showed you that you'd like to see, if you want to see a granulating only palette, or if there are some projects you'd like to see, then please just leave me a comment and let me know, because I am really, really happy to do it. I paint every single day anyway, and it's kind of fun to be able to have these conversations with you guys and share some of this stuff with you. I mean, that's after all how I found out about this. It was from one of you guys telling me about it, and now I have my perfect travel palette. All right, have a great one and happy painting. Bye.